We all know some gamers do some wild stuff. We thought we might talk about the gamers that have heard the Call of Duty. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 crazy things Call of Duty players have done. Starting off at number 10, way back in 2012, Kim.com, the founder of Megaupload, yes, that's his real name. No, it's definitely not his birth name. And yes, Megaupload, the file sharing site that was used mainly for piracy that got, in trouble. Kim.com was the world champion of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on Xbox Live. He was number 1 in ranked play. However, remember I mentioned that Megaupload got in trouble? Well, so did he, being the founder. He'd been jailed about a week by the time he was knocked out of the number 1 rank, which I'm just interested in exactly how much that affected him in prison. Like, was that something he was constantly thinking about in his cell? There's some people that accused him of cheating his way to that position, but I'm gonna go ahead and say I don't care. This was kind of a while ago. Moving on to number 9, a Call of Duty player decided that, hey, he was going to make Master Prestige without firing a single shot. Now, Master Prestige sounds like some sort of magician's title. That's not the case. You have to get to level 55 before you can enter what's called Prestige mode, and then you basically have to level up in Prestige for 11 levels, and you get the final rank of Master Prestige. A YouTuber by the name of These Knives Only managed to pull off 32,000 kills using the bayonet charge, the shovel, an ice pick, throwing knives, and of course, being the guy's name is These Knives Only, the combat knife. Now, he not only did this in Black Ops 3, he also has done it in World War II. In fact, he said, I always set a goal of hitting max rank in every Call of Duty game by using only knives, so my main goal right now is hitting level 1000 in World War II. At number 8, a Call of Duty player who also makes cartoons and whatnot on YouTube called Blasted Roof combined Pokemon with Call of Duty, and they did a good job of integrating snipers and various classes into what would be a JRPG, obviously along the lines of a Pokemon game, and also integrated a bunch of cultural references from the Call of Duty section of gaming. Now, I'm not saying that it's the most amazing thing ever done, but it's a fun idea, and I enjoyed it. Moving on to number 7, a couple got married after they met when who would become the wife continually killed the husband in Call of Duty. The future husband, a man by the name of Gary Davey, noticed that a player would just relentlessly keep killing him. His response to this was to send that player a message asking them to stop killing him, which, what are you even playing this game for, dude? Anyway, it actually worked out pretty well for him on account they started conversing. And as it turned out, they only lived about 90 miles from each other. And somehow, shockingly, Kaylee Hopgood, the future wife at this point, was the same age as Gary. They were both 22. After they ended up talking, talking more and got engaged, then got married. Neither of them were obviously looking for somebody to marry on Call of Duty. That's not something you do. So it's pretty cool they actually found each other that way. Good on them. Moving on to number 6, this isn't entirely dissimilar to the previous, however, it has a twist. Two people who were already together ended up being faced with a split when the girlfriend caught the boyfriend cheating. His response was to buy her a PlayStation as a gift, which is, maybe not the best response. And I think that she kind of viewed that as a good reason to leave. She did. She did keep the PlayStation though, and good for her. She actually began playing Call of Duty online, and through that, met somebody who she not only had a kid with, but got married to. Now that's a pretty wild series of events. Guy cheats, gets PlayStation to make up for it. Girl goes, actually you can leave. I'll keep the PlayStation. Finds a new husband, has a kid with them through the PlayStation. Is that not something you would hear on Jerry Springer? I mean, that seems like a Judge Judy episode where the guy's like, give me my PlayStation back. Moving on to number 5, we've talked about this guy before, but this one 46-year-old unemployed man was playing Call of Duty and lost. A 13-year-old boy who lived very nearby beat him, and beat him badly on Call of Duty, and that infuriated him. So he tracked the boy down and throttled him, grabbing him by the throat, which is not a normal thing to do. Anyways, he got in trouble, obviously. I mean, you can't really do that. But it's not just that he got in trouble, he also somehow managed to get off of any prison time. It's not that he wasn't declared innocent or anything like that. He was pretty much caught red-handed doing this. Like, the kid's mother actually had to separate them. But the judge actually went ahead and admonished him for being a 46-year-old man who tracked down a kid who was taunting him in a video game to choke him out and throttle him. I think he probably shouldn't have avoided prison time. That's insane. At number 4, someone who was labeled a gaming addict in 2012, probably somebody who would have been labeled as having gaming disorder in 2019, from Sydney, Australia, played Call of Duty for 135 hours, setting the Guinness World Record for longest Call of Duty session. He ended up saying that his hands were cramping up by the end of the game, and that he went through a lot of bandages. There's also photos of him where his eyes just look so tired by the end of this play session. People have died staying awake less time than that. And yeah, it's not necessarily because they were entirely healthy in the first place, but it's definitely not healthy to spend all of that time. I mean, that's 5 days straight staying awake and playing a video game, which is, let's be clear, an actually mentally taxing activity that requires energy. 5 full days, no sleep. I mean, people who do those charity streams on Twitch don't even not sleep. Coming in at number 3, a couple of newlyweds were enjoying a night at home in a situation that most people would probably consider normal, but some neighbors heard some disturbing sounds. So they called 911. On the phone, they said, "I'm a little bit concerned with what they're saying," because apparently they were saying things like, "No, please don't kill me." There was also screaming and gunfire. Now you can probably figure out where this is going, but they were playing Call of Duty. They were not spraying their apartment with bullets. I think people probably would have figured that out pretty quick, but apparently this neighbor didn't. They were concerned over the bullet sounds. Like, if you're concerned over bullet sounds and not like utterly terrified there are bullets flying through your wall, which by the way is what would happen if people were shooting bullets out of guns that are in Call of Duty. If you're just concerned about it, it's probably not real bullets. So what I have to imagine is that this was an incredibly passive-aggressive move by the neighbor, in which they were like, I don't want to call 911 and complain about the noise because then they'll think that I'm awful. Instead, I'm going to call them and act as though I fear for my life. And you know, that may not be the case. It may be a genuine call, but I'd like to imagine that people aren't that gullible and dumb. Coming in at number 2, missions in video games often involve heist scenarios, and some French criminals actually pulled one off pretty well. There were Call of Duty trucks delivering copies of the newest Call of Duty when this happened back in 2011 to various stores all around France. And these criminals were like, "We want all of them, but we don't want to pay." So they hijacked the trucks and stole all the games, and it turns out to be that in this heist, they got away with about $775,000 worth of the game. And then about an hour later, they did it again to another delivery van. I don't know what the second van was carrying, but considering the fact they didn't get caught by the cops, these are good hijackers. And just the first haul was good enough, nearly $800,000 worth of copies of a game. Back in 2011, you could probably sell that all around the world and get away with it. I don't know about now. The people who care about game preservation are going to look back on our era with scorn, mostly because there aren't as many awesome heists. That's the reason, right? Yeah. And finally, at number 1, you see some very interesting people in line, or at least you used to when there were physical copies of games for sale, to get the latest Call of Duty. Back in 2012, for instance, there was a young man who decided to stay on the street for days ahead of time in order to be first, to the point where he had to Google tips for sleeping outside. But it's not just young people who are willing to brave the elements. A 78-year-old woman showed up in line a couple of years later in order to get the latest Call of Duty as well. This dedication and sense of community that would often be shown in lines is, well, it's gone now. We don't have a lot of people do that anymore. We just download the game, which is cool. But sometimes I worry that this kind of diverse, regular people's meetup is happening less and less, and video games used to be a thing that kinda did that. What do you think? Leave us a comment, let us know. If you like this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on GameRanx.